also. And there are about 5, 6 people, as Shankar has very brilliantly put everything together and choreographed it, who will be what we call audience comes alive. So they are waiting in the room and they will be asking questions so that the sectoral representation across the sectors and also across the state from Coimbatore, Madurai are all represented. So before we start, let me first thank each and every one of you for agreeing to do this and Shankar for putting this together. As Shankar has very brilliantly put everything together and choreographed it, will be what we call audience comes alive. So they're waiting. And also Raghuveer Srinivasan of a Business Line editor who's helped us to sort of going to queue all the questions and as they come in, because we do expect a lot of questions. We want to make sure the best questions are given to Shankar for moderation. Kriti, good to meet you finally on video in addition to the phone.
I think let's go broadcast, Gopal. So right after he comes, we can probably start. I'll just broadcast right now.
Let him just get seated and then broadcast.
Yeah, okay. Because we are already live on YouTube. So probably we'll just remain quiet. We'll probably mute for some time and then start the session.
Not visible on YouTube.
Yes.
It's 5:30. He's come.
Mr. Srinivasan, once Honorable CM comes, you will start on your own, right?
That's correct.
Right.
சிஎம் பேசுறது மட்டும் கொடுத்துருவோம். அவங்க என்ன பேசுவாங்க?
Thanks, sir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the much-awaited webinar session hosted by Chennai International Center this evening. We will begin the session with a welcome address by Mr. Gopal Srinivasan, Chairman of CIC. Let me request you, Gopal, to take over the session and welcome the dignitaries.
Vanakkam and a very good evening to the Honorable Chief Minister, the other ministers, secretaries who are present here, our members of the panel, very distinguished, and of course the Consul Generals who are attending today, as well as the members of the Chennai International Center. Sir, today it's a very important day for us at Chennai International Center. It's a great privilege to have you with us this evening. Tamil Nadu is not only a state which is only second to Maharashtra in terms of economic growth, but also a state which is facing the second most amount of challenges from the coronavirus. We are proud that in this state, the mortality and the healthcare has been managed so well that puts us ahead of every other state in this country. And we're all grateful to you and your administration for exemplary leadership in terms of disease management. I know the government now believes it's a time to restart the economy and put back the growth momentum that this state is very well known for. The management of this virus, of course, has slowed down the economy. And today, as we reopen, we're keen to hear your thoughts on what we can do differently. And of course, discuss with this eminent panel after that as to ideas how we can conquer the disease and manage this long walk in slow motion that awaits us for the next few years. Over the past few years, Chennai International Center has been a platform for many thoughtful interactions for political, economic, business, and leaders of arts and culture. We've had over the last 4 weeks many leaders from across the world in the field of healthcare and economics talk about the effect of the coronavirus and how mankind can triumph over this disease also. Therefore, today's discussion is very, very important as we go away from the disease to actually how we can revive the economy and in this fight for life, give people back their livelihoods. And that's the discussion we look forward, sir. We look forward to your thoughts and the debate after that, which we will then compile and present back to the Honorable Chief Secretary who has helped to put this together, as well as the rest of your officials. CIC is very happy that we are able to serve the people of the state and the people of Chennai in making this platform available. I would just like to mention that 1,000 people have registered on Zoom for this program. And in addition, the program is also being broadcast live on YouTube. It's a first for Chennai International Center, and we're delighted it is happening under your leadership when you are speaking here today. So with these few words, Honorable Chief Minister, may I kindly request you to address all of us.
பேசலாமா? குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில்துறையினர், இந்திய தொழில் கூட்டமைப்பு மற்றும் சென்னை பன்னாட்டு மையம் ஆகிய அமைப்புகளைச் சேர்ந்த தொழில் முனைவருடைய ஆலோசனை கூட்ட நிகழ்ச்சியிலே பங்கு பெற்றுள்ள மாண்புமிகு தொழில்துறை அமைச்சர்களுக்கும் மாண்புமிகு ஊரக தொழில்துறை அமைச்சர்களுக்கும் மரியாதைக்குரிய தலைமைச் செயலாளர்களுக்கும் மற்றும் நிகழ்ச்சியிலே பங்கு பெற்றுகின்ற பல துறை செயலாளர்களுக்கும், இந்த ஆலோசனை கூட்ட நிகழ்ச்சியிலே பங்கு பெற்றுகின்ற குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனத்தைச் சேர்ந்த நிர்வாகிகளுக்கும், சென்னை பன்னாட்டு மையம் மற்றும் இந்திய தொழில் கூட்டமைப்பைச் சேர்ந்த முன்னணி தொழில் முனைவோர்களுக்கும் மற்றும் நிகழ்ச்சியிலே பங்கு பெற்றுள்ள அனைவருக்கும் என்னுடைய முதற்கண் நன்றி கலந்த வணக்கம். உலக தொற்று நோயான கொரோனா வைரஸ் பரவல் சமீப காலங்களில் மனிதர்களும் வரலாற்றிலேயே மிகப்பெரிய சவாலான பேரிடாக உள்ளது. உலகெங்கும் லட்சக்கணக்கில் மக்கள் பாதிப்புக்குள்ளாகி பல்லாயிரக்கணக்கானோர் உயிரிழந்துள்ளனர். உலக பொருளாதாரத்திலும் இதன் தாக்கம் மிகப்பெரிய அளவில் உள்ளது. நமது தமிழ்நாட்டிலும் இந்நோய் பல பாதிப்புகளை ஏற்படுத்தியுள்ளது. மக்களை காப்பதையே ஒரே நோக்கமாக கொண்டுள்ள தமிழ்நாடு அரசு இந்நோயை எதிர்த்து போராடுவதற்கு அனைத்து கட்டமைப்புகளும் திறம்பட உருவாக்கியுள்ளது. மருத்துவர்கள், சுகாதார பணியாளர்கள், தூய்மை பணியாளர்கள், காவல்துறையினர், பிற அரசு துறை பணியாளர்கள், தொழில்துறையினர் மற்றும் பொதுமக்கள் என அனைவருடனும் இணைந்து அரசு நோய் தடுப்பில் முனைப்புடன் செயல்பட்டு வருகிறது. இச்சூழலில் கொரோனா நோய் தடுப்புக்கு தேவையான மருந்துகள் மற்றும் மருத்துவ உபகரணங்களை தமிழ்நாட்டிலேயே தயாரிக்க ஊக்கமளிக்கும் வகையில் சிறப்பு சலுகைகளை நான் அறிவித்திருந்தேன். அதன் விளைவாகவும் தொழில் முனைவோரின் சிறப்பான முயற்சியின் விளைவாகவும் இன்றைக்கு சுமார் 1500 நிறுவனங்கள் இப்பொருட்களின் உற்பத்தியை துவங்கி இந்தியா முழுவதும் வழங்கி வருகின்றன. இவற்றில் பெரும்பாலானவை குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனங்கள் என்பது குறிப்பிடத்தக்கது. எந்த ஒரு அவசர சூழலிலும் பேரிடரிலும் நாட்டிற்கே துணையாக இருப்பது தமிழ்நாடு. குறிப்பாக நம் மாநில தொழில் துறையினர் திறன் இதன் மூலம் மீண்டும் ஒருமுறை நிறுவனமாகியுள்ளது. அரசின் நடவடிக்கைகளுக்கு மேலும் வலு சேர்க்கும் விதமாக தொழில்துறையினர் பலர் மனமுகுந்து முதலமைச்சரின் பொது நிவாரண நிதிக்கு பெருமளவில் நிதியுதவி வழங்கியுள்ளீர்கள். இதற்கு எனது மனமார்ந்த நன்றியினை அரசின் சார்பாக தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். வைரஸ் பரவலை கட்டுப்படுத்தும் அதே நேரத்தில் மக்களின் வாழ்வாதாரத்திற்கான பல்வேறு அடிப்படை உதவிகளையும் அரசு தொடர்ந்து செய்து வருகிறது. அதன் அடுத்த கட்டமாக பல்வேறு ஊரடங்கு கட்டுப்பாட்டுகளை அரசு தற்போது படிப்படியாக தளர்த்தி வருகிறது. ஊரடங்கு காலத்திலும் கூட தொழில் நிறுவனங்கள் தங்களது முக்கியமான இயந்திரங்களின் பராமரிப்பு பணிகளை மேற்கொள்ள தகுந்த அனுமதிகளை வழங்கிய ஒரே மாநிலம் தமிழ்நாடு மட்டுமே. மேலும் அவசர காலத்தில் தேவைப்படும் பொருட்கள் உற்பத்தி, 10 வகையான தொடர் செயல்பாட்டு தொழிற்சாலைகளின் இயக்கம் ஆகியவற்றை அரசு அனுமதித்துள்ளது. ஊரடங்கை படிப்படியாக தளர்த்துவதற்காக அரசு அலுவலர்கள், பொது சுகாதார வல்லுநர்கள், தொழில்துறையினர் அடங்கிய குழு அமைக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. அந்த வல்லுநர் குழு ஆய்வு செய்து வழங்கிய அறிக்கையின் அடிப்படையில் பல தளர்வுகள் அளிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளன. தற்போது சென்னை தவிர்த்து தமிழ்நாட்டின் பிற பகுதியில் உள்ள நிறுவனங்கள் செயல்பட துவங்கியுள்ள நிலையில் அனைத்து தொழிற்சாலைகளும் அரசு அளித்த பாதுகாப்பு வழிமுறைகளை பின்பற்றி செயல்பட்டு வருவதை பாராட்டுகிறேன். சூழ்நிலையை பொறுத்து மேலும் தளர்வுகளை அரசு படிப்படியாக வழங்கும். தொழில் துறையின் விழிப்போடு இருந்து நோய் பரவலை தடுத்து தகுந்த பாதுகாப்புடன் உற்பத்தியை தொடர்ந்து மேற்கொள்ள வேண்டிய நேரம் இதுவாகும். குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனங்களுக்கு நிவாரணம் வழங்குவதற்காக பிணை சொத்தின்றி உடனடியாக கடன் வழங்கும் திட்டத்திற்காக 200 கோடி ரூபாயை ஒதுக்கி தமிழ்நாடு தொழில் முதலீட்டுக் கழகம் கோவிட் நிவாரணம் மற்றும் மேம்பாட்டு திட்டம் என்ற திட்டத்தை 31/3/2020 அன்று நான் அறிவித்திருந்தேன். இத்திட்டத்தின் மூலம் இதுவரை 799 குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனங்களுக்கு 101 கோடி ரூபாய் அளவிற்கு கடனுதவி அளிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. மேலும் குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனங்களுக்கு கடன் வழங்க சிட்பி மூலம் தேவையான நிதியினை தமிழ்நாடு தொழில் முதலீட்டுக் கழகத்திற்கு ஒதுக்கிட வலியுறுத்தி மத்திய நிதியமைச்சருக்கு கடிதம் அனுப்பியுள்ளேன். குறு சிறு மற்றும் நடுத்தர தொழில் நிறுவனங்களுக்கு சிறப்பு நிவாரண துறை செயலாளர்களுக்கு நான் அறிவுறுத்தியுள்ளேன். மாநில அளவிலான வங்கியில் கூட்டத்தை கூட்டி இத்திட்டங்களின் செயல்பாடுகளை முடுக்கிவிடும் உத்தரவிட்டுள்ளேன். கொரோனா வைரஸ் பரவல் உலக பொருளாதார சூழலில் ஏற்படுத்தியுள்ள விளைவுகளால் சில நாடுகளில் உள்ள தொழில் நிறுவனங்கள் இந்தியா உள்ளிட்ட நாடுகளுக்கு இடம்பெயர முடிவு செய்துள்ளன. இது போன்ற சோதனையான தருணங்கள் தான் பல வரலாற்று திருப்பங்களை ஏற்படுத்தி தரும். எனவே இடம்பெயரும் நிறுவனங்களை தமிழ்நாட்டுக்கு ஈர்க்க தேவையான நடவடிக்கைகளை மேற்கொள்ள தலைமைச் செயலாளர் தலைமையில் அரசு அலுவலர்கள் ஜப்பான், கொரியா, சிங்கப்பூர், அமெரிக்கா மற்றும் தைவான் ஆகிய நாடுகளை சார்ந்த தொழில் கூட்டமைப்பினர் அடங்கிய சிறப்பு பணிக்குழுவை ஏற்படுத்தியுள்ளேன். கொரோனா பாதிப்புக்கு பின் நீண்டகால நோக்கில் தமிழ்நாட்டின் பொருளாதாரத்தை மறு கட்டமைப்பு செய்திடும் வகையில் இந்திய ரிசர்வ் வங்கியின் முன்னாள் ஆளுநர் மரியாதைக்குரிய டாக்டர் சி ரங்கராஜன் அவர்கள் தலைமையில் பொருளாதார நிபுணர்கள், தொழில் முனைவோர், அரசு அலுவலர்கள் அடங்கிய உயர்மட்ட குழு ஒன்றையும் அமைத்துள்ளேன். தொழில்துறையினர் அரசிடம் பல்வேறு கோரிக்கைகளை முன்வைத்துள்ளீர்கள். இக்கூட்டத்திலும் பல கருத்துக்களை தெரிவிக்க உள்ளீர்கள். மாநில அரசின் நிதிநிலைக்கு ஏற்ப மற்றும் அதிகார வரம்பைக்கு உட்பட்டு இக்கோரிக்கையை அரசு கண்ணுடன் பரிசீலிக்கும் என்பதை உங்களுக்கு தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். இக்காலத்தில் தொழில்துறையை பொறுத்தவரையில் தமிழ்நாடு அரசின் செயல் திட்டமாக 4 முக்கிய இனங்களில் கவனம் செலுத்துமாறு அனைத்து அதிகாரிகளுக்கும் நான் அறிவுறுத்தியுள்ளேன். தொழில் நிறுவனங்களுக்கு தேவையான அனைத்து உதவிகளும் செய்து தற்போதைய பாதிப்பில் இருந்து மீட்டெடுத்தல், புதிய முதலீடுகளை ஈர்த்தல், அரசு அனுமதிகள் மற்றும் நடைமுறைகள் மேலும் எளிதாக்கி விரைவாக ஒப்புதல் வழங்குதல், கடன் வழங்கும் நடைமுறைகளை எளிதாக்கி தொழில்களுக்கு தேவையான பணப்புழக்கத்தை அதிகரித்தல். மேலும் தொழில் முனைவோர் என்னை நேரில் சந்தித்து பேச வேண்டும் என்று விரும்பினால் 24 மணி நேரத்தில் அதற்கு நேரம் ஒதுக்கி தரப்படும். அதே நாளில் தலைமைச் செயலாளர் உள்ளிட்ட மூத்த அதிகாரிகள் தங்களை சந்திப்பார்கள். மருத்துவம், பாதுகாப்பு, மின்சார வாகனங்கள், ESDM மற்றும் ஜவுளி போன்ற துறைகளுக்கு ஒரு சிறப்பு தொகுப்பு உருவாக்கப்படும். இச்செயல்பாடுகளில் முனைப்புடன் ஈடுபடுவதன் மூலம் புதிய தொழில்கள் மற்றும் ஏற்கனவே தமிழ்நாட்டில் செயல்பட்டு வரும் தொழில்கள் மேலும் சிறப்புடன் செயல்படவும், கொரோனா வைரஸ் நமக்கு இட்டுள்ள சவால்களை வெற்றிகரமாக எதிர்கொள்ளவும் இயலும் என்பதில் ஐயமில்லை. இந்த இக்கட்டான சூழ்நிலையில் தொழில் தொடங்க உள்ளதால் அரசின் விதிமுறைகளை முழுமையாக கடைபிடித்து தொழில் வளர்ச்சி மற்றும் பணி பாதுகாப்பை உறுதி செய்திடும் வகையில் அனைவரும் ஒன்றிணைந்து பணியாற்றி உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் என்னுடைய அன்பான வேண்டுகோளை வைக்கின்றேன். தொழில் முனைவோருக்கும் தொழில்துறையினருக்கும் தமிழ்நாடு அரசு என்றைக்கும் பாதுகாப்பு அரணாக இருந்து தொழில் வளர்ச்சிக்கு துணையாக இருக்கும் என்று அன்புடன் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Thank you very much, sir, for your words, which have inspired confidence, your ideas for managing the disease, as well as to attract investments, creating a think tank of business and economic leaders to advise the state on ideas to make the state emerge first in how it is recovering on economic front post this COVID disease. We are very grateful for your time and thank you. We will now deliberate your thoughts and directions with this very eminent panel and come back to you along with the Chief Secretary with ideas. We really appreciate your addressing us and the people of Tamil Nadu through this platform today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let me now invite Mr. Shankar to take on and start the discussion, please.
Thank you, Vanita. Good evening. A warm welcome to this record audience, the highest ever for a CIC event. And rightly so, given the gravity of the subject and the insight that this eminent panel brings to this event. So while we wait for respected Chief Secretary to join us, I will proceed to welcome panel members and thank them for being with us at an extraordinarily busy time for them. I welcome Mr. Venu Srinivasan, Chairman and Managing Director, TVS Motor Company Limited, and Captain of Industry. Thank you, sir, for being on this panel. I welcome Mr. B. Santanam, Founder and Managing Director at Saint-Gobain Glass India Limited, and Mr. Josh Folger, Country Head and Managing Director, Foxconn International Holding India. Thank you, sirs, for sparing the time. And finally, I welcome Dr. Jairam Varadaraj, Managing Director, LG Equipments Limited, and Mr. K. Kritivasan, President, Banking, Financial Services and Insurance at Tata Consultancy Services Limited. Thank you, sirs, for sparing your time. It is said that crisis brings out the best in us. I have seen that in spades with this pandemic. The Feed My Chennai program was inspired by our own Gopal Srinivasan and executed very well by a large team of volunteers with able support of donors. In addition, there has been an outpouring of support by individuals, organizations, and companies to the needy sections of society. We saw this with the Chennai floods, and we are seeing it again with COVID. It truly makes me proud to be a citizen of our great state. It is also said that crisis is the father of opportunity, and that, broadly, is the theme of our evening today. Our response to this crisis can and should be the opportunity to take significant initiatives that could truly transform our state and our nation into a powerhouse in years to come. We will spend most of the next hour conversing with our panel on what they see as the opportunities and the reforms that are necessary that could take us to the next level. We have heard from the panel and members of the audience that there are some tactical changes that are desirable to the regulations covering the road to normality. We will spend some time on those points towards the end. Now, if the Tamil Nadu government team is online, Vanita, I would like to welcome them.
They'll be joining in a bit, Shankar. I'll let you know when they join.
So we'll start, we will proceed with the panel. I will start with Mr. Venu Srinivasan. Sir, can I request you to describe your vision for how Tamil Nadu state may build upon its competitive advantages and become a preferred destination for industry? You referred to labor, laws, and of course, land. But you had a very interesting comment to make on social infrastructure, which I think is very interesting for the audience. Over to you, sir. Venu, sir, over to you.
No, I had my mic off. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Shankar. Tamil Nadu was at the forefront of industrialization from 60s to mid 80s or even 90. But in the last many years, competition has sprung up from many other states and even our neighboring state, Andhra Pradesh, Sri City, I think attracted many people who would have otherwise come to Tamil Nadu. We have many advantages, a very peaceful state. We have a good number of educated engineers, DMEs, and a good labor force which is productive and disciplined. But we should also now look at what the other side is. The other side, we don't have land outside around Chennai. Now, everybody wants to come to Chennai because of port, because social infrastructure. and being a city with hospitals, schools, and other social infrastructure. But when you go outside Chennai, Coimbatore is really the only other cosmopolitan city that we have. So we've been talking over 30 years, in my knowledge, about creating major industrial hubs somewhere between Trichy and Madurai, like Pralimalai, but where you create a whole township, not just an industrial estate. And again, outside Coimbatore, a major township. Coimbatore also has a reasonably good climate. I think next to Bangalore, the only comparable place in Tamil Nadu is in Coimbatore, where you have an early, sharp summer, but then it's quite pleasant rest of the year. But where we have not done as well as we should have done, like if you take Gurgaon, complete city sprang up around Hero Honda, Maruti, the tractor companies, and all other Japanese suppliers who came up there. Headquarters of all multinational companies are there because basically you have an excellent social infrastructure of schools, colleges, hospitals, and recreation. Now, this is one area where Tamil Nadu has always been half-hearted because somehow the feeling is these pubs and lounges corrupt our culture. But you do have them in expensive hotels and some elitist clubs. But if you take the average engineer or manager or professional who comes from outside Chennai, like Pune, Bangalore, Delhi, or any other place, finds when he comes to Chennai, it is stifling and not as cosmopolitan as other parts of India where he could go to. That is a constant refrain that you get, even food variety other than South Madras, let's say, and maybe a little bit in Anna Nagar. You don't have it in the real suburbs. If you have to live in Pallavaram or Krompet or Nanganallur or Porur, you really don't have any entertainment infrastructure for middle-level engineers. As some multinational company leaders told me, our middle-level engineers are paid middle-level salaries. They can't afford to go to five-star hotels and have drinks at that or food at the cost that uh, that as much as they cost. But they want clean, decent, wholesome entertainment. If they're young people, they want to take their wife out for a dance. The second thing is schools. Bangalore has had a dozen schools that come up. Bangalore has had maybe a dozen golf courses. I don't know how many, 6, 8, or how many golf courses that come up. Even though Bangalore is extremely difficult traffic, congested, you can't go from anywhere to anywhere, but yet people still keep going to Bangalore. So we have to create complete new townships with all this infrastructure, one around Coimbatore, one between Trichy and Madurai, and you can attract talent. But we have to understand today, we're talking about attracting companies leaving China and coming here. You go to Bangkok, you go to Jakarta, you go to Vietnam, all the infrastructure is very foreigner friendly and multinational friendly. Here, even we find it difficult to attract talent from outside Tamil Nadu or South India at best to come and work in Chennai. Getting somebody from Gujarat or Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh or Delhi is very difficult. It happens, but it's not easy. So I think we must first look at our strengths, play to our strengths, but also make sure the weaknesses are not so much that they prevent people from coming here. And this has been talked about to my memory for 30 years about creating 2 or 3 major satellite townships. In fact, one outside Chennai was also supposed to come. But these have not fructified. Yes?
Oh, okay. You see, the other point that you had made when we spoke was that it was not really so much on the supply side, but particularly for discretionary products. Demand recovery is also a very important part of the path to normality. And you had some views on how we can improve customer confidence in such a way that demand recovers. A few words from you on that, please.
See, China has opened up, but today there's a report. While Chinese production has picked up, customers have not yet come back fully because economic downturn is as much a psychological matter as it is a economic matter. So people who have money saying we'll wait, everything is bad, the whole world is bad. Should we rush to buy a new car or a new TV or a new refrigerator and maybe only new clothes just to the extent that we need, and not like in the past where you go to buy one shirt and end up buying 3 shirts, or one sari and end up with 3 saris or dresses. So I think today there will be a lot of hesitation for people to come back. So while the central government has announced some major steps, there is not enough given fiscally. All that has been given is substantially monetary policy driven. You have given loans, you have made sure that companies, SMEs in particular, don't sink and they survive this. But they have to repay those loans. And that can be done only if business grows. So for business growth, if you take internationally, if you look at, they have given substantial salary packages to middle-sized companies and small companies where government pays salaries. I know we can't afford it, but where you had given 1,500 rupees a month to the poorest, should have given 5,000 rupees a month for 3 months and really made sure they had confidence. So I still think that I would expect from the government a fiscal package, even at the cost of having a high fiscal deficit, which does raise the problem of current account deficit going up because people start buying things which are imported and inflation going up. But even at that cost, when a patient is in ICU, you give him a medicine which may affect the heart or may affect the kidneys, but to protect the major organ that you're trying to protect. So in the same way, we have to accept that today we have to bring back buying. Otherwise, industry will not really pick up and therefore give more fiscally than we have given in the last 3 days, what announcements we have seen. So I think that is very crucial to get demand going again.
Sir, and do you think messaging itself plays a role? Because the messaging all around is very negative. It's all about fear and mortality and crowded ICUs and so on. There is not enough messaging that is, in a sense, positive at all.
I think we need to message at all levels of the government. We have one of the lowest fatality levels. We can say that our infection levels are understated because we're not doing enough testing. But fatality is fairly well recorded in India. So the fatality on a normal basis versus what has happened is really we're one of the lowest in the world, and that is true across Indonesia, Africa, South America. The fatality rates are a fraction of what it is in Europe because of a young population, I think. Maybe there are other factors that I'm not aware of. People say where malaria is there, people have already got some immunity. But all those are hypotheses which will be proved after the studies are done in the next coming years. But right now, we do know fatality is low. And therefore, while the lockdown did prevent it from exploding, you must understand also at the lockdown stage, we didn't know enough about it. We had to be risk averse. And therefore, I think it was a bold decision to lock down a country of this size for so long. But now that we're seeing more and more, you have Sweden, which didn't lock down, which has the same fatality rate as the rest of Europe or North America, maybe less. Because society is more disciplined, I agree. Second, we also have now understanding what it is, ask people above 60 to self-quarantine, particularly if they have other morbidities as hypertension or cancer or diabetes. That is a much better way to do it. Then if your one child comes to school sick, you send the child home. You don't send the classroom home. So in the same way, it's time that we said, yes, there will be infections at work. It's frightening, but it's true. But it's not so frightening because I don't know personally of one person who has died. In our company, only few people, 2 people have got infected. And there's no mortality. And this we checked with Tata's also, with Cummins, at least companies with whom I work. None of them have had a problem of that magnitude. They maybe have had 1 or 2 deaths. So now it's time to quarantine those who are vulnerable and let the rest go get back to work.
Thank you, sir. From your lips to God's ears, we hope. On a lighter note, I saw WhatsApp recently. They've discovered a great correlation between countries that have elephant population and their low level of mortality, which I found amusing, but it is a very strong correlation. So I want to move on to Santanam. Mr. Santanam, you have 5 hours for revival, and that sounds very alliterative, very interesting.
Thank you.
But the more interesting thing I find is this concept of manufacturing wallet share. We have in our state, we are lucky to have the largest multinational manufacturing concentration in India. Now, what manufacturing wallet share of theirs do we actually have? And is there scope to dig further into their manufacturing wallet share and get something more over here? Or if not theirs, can we use them as good agencies to talk about us to other peers of theirs and bring them here? So that was something I found very interesting from what you said. So over to you.
Sure. So thank you. And obviously, speaking after Venu is always a challenge. I think he talked about the social infrastructure, he talked about demand, he talked about messaging. So I'm going to be very specific, and I have about 5 points. And one of that is the point that you referred to. If you don't mind, I'll come this in a certain order so that I include that also. And after that, I'm free to take any call. So for me, I think the first and the most important thing is we have to revive the sustainable MSMEs, and we have to do that smartly. Now, it's one of the pillars of the Prime Minister's revival package. He talks about something like 400,000 crores allocated for MSME. Tamil Nadu has got 20% of India's MSME in Tamil Nadu. We have to make sure that in the next 90 days that we have 80,000 crores obtained through this MSME revival program. Now, this can be dramatic. And what we have to do is that we have to do it smartly. We have to make sure that we identify MSMEs which are on a growth path, which require these funds, and which has the highest chance of survival. So therefore, we need to maximize the economic multiplier. What I would suggest first is really a 90-day plan under a task force headed by the CM, the senior IAS officials, and the banks. We form a task force along with the industry stalwarts to say who and what type of MSMEs to be supported. If you have 80,000 crores and we have some 20 or 30,000 large MSME, reliable MSMEs, it can really unleash the growth that Venu was talking about. And I think this task force has to be on a mission mode. We have to complete it in 90 days. The second area which you referred to, which I'll come to, is really that we really have to re-invite. See, one of the things that the last TN Global Investor Meet did was not only look after new customers, but look after the existing customers. We all know in businesses, existing customers are the best for us. Now, Tamil Nadu is a home to the largest of the Indian multinationals. We have many of those in the panel today, and also large multinational corporations of the world, the Fortune 50, there are many who are present. They are our best ambassadors. We have to make sure every one of their new investments is coming back to this. This is very specific. We don't need to do anything more than what we have done in the MOU. We really have to make this significantly easier for them to perform. And as Venu said, that we are all reviving today. We have to make sure there is trust in the industries to do the right things so that we can get started. And I want to add, Venu, that I've added about 10 large companies in Chennai with about 100,000 employees. Not one has had a COVID positive case yet. So that essentially means the industries are doing really well managing, because it's very important for us to have our employees and our extended employees ecosystems working very well. The third
Santanam Gopal here, I just want to take a minute segue to welcome Chief Secretary Mr. K. Shanmugam, along with Honorable Industries Minister Mr. Sampath, Industry Secretary Mr. Muruganandam, Rural Industries Minister Mr. Benjamin, Finance Secretary Mr. Krishnan, and and the Principal Secretary for Industries and the Principal Secretary MSME, the Executive Director Guidance, who joined us from the Chief Secretary's room. Welcome, gentlemen, to this meeting, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sirs, respected Chief Secretary, senior officials from Government of Tamil Nadu. We're really happy that you're all here with us to listen to us. So I've just covered two important points. The first one was, how do we revive sustainable MSMEs smartly and achieve 20% of the 400,000 crores that the Prime Minister talked about, the revival and the loan packages? Can we get 80,000 crores of that in the next 90 days? And I think this is probably we have to work on a mission mode where a task force headed by the CM and many of you, the Chief Secretary, the Industry Secretary, the Revenue Secretary, and the banks and industrial servers can do that. The second one is we really have to go after our existing pillars, which are really the large multinationals, as well as the Indian multinationals who have invested and reinvesting in India. We have to make sure the reinvestment is attractive, and we have to trust the industries to do the right things. And I was just saying that I know that at least 10 or 15 companies in Chennai alone with more than 100,000 employees, not one of them has had a COVID positive yet. So that means they must be doing something right. They must be following the protocol, the procedures. The third point that I'm talking about is really we have to reimagine the housing and the construction industry. After agriculture, construction and housing has the highest employment potential. Post-COVID, we did a diptych study. We found that the work from home is going to be a permanent feature. We're not all going to back to work. And most consumers are looking to invest in larger homes. Mind you, even in this desperate times, they're saying that if there's a 2-bedroom, I want to add a study to it, because they realize that companies are going to make work from home happen. Now, I think it's important for Tamil Nadu government to make it easy for construction industry and the housing industry by eliminating all inhibitors. And also globally, construction industry is the one which attracts the largest amount of FDIs from pension funds and other things. An important point that you have to remember is, in the construction industry, the entire value chain from building materials such as cement, steel, paints, glass, everything is made local, and the entire value addition stays within the state. So therefore, I would really go boldly and say that we must target 5 million homes in 5 years. And because there will be a solid demand, this will bring investments close to 7.5 lakh crores even at a 15 lakh flat, which could be a mix of low income and as well as affordable and high value flats. We're talking about $100 billion. And at 25% level FDI, we're talking about 5 billion every year. And this is really important. But what is more important is the GST that is there in all the materials would also accrue to Tamil Nadu, because construction industry, almost everything is produced and consumed in the state. You could have something like a 2 billion per year GST in addition to all the investment that are coming in. No other industry can match this, both in terms of investment, GST, value addition, as well as the labor intensity. I think we need to remove the restrictions that are inhibiting there. I think a task force can look at it. I think we can take advantage of the Builders Association of India, which is really headquartered in Chennai and Kradai, and say what is the best that we can do. The third important thing, where this is the fourth for me, is really the tourism industry. You know, it's no one believes it, but the fact is Tamil Nadu attracts 33 crore domestic tourists. Tourism industry is going to suffer, we know that. But we have 20% share of the domestic and foreign tourist traffic. We are naturally endowed with. We have everything: roads, connectivity, hotels, place of interest. We need to leverage this natural strength and market and unleash a campaign to promote safe tourism. You know, if we can make them think whenever they choose to travel, create a safe tourism network, standards, get independent bodies to certify the entire supply chain from arrival, safe taxis, transport, restaurants, hotels, on-road facilities, and ensure that all stakeholders are aligned on the safe tourism mission. And I think this is something which will play into the hands of Tamil Nadu's strength, because 20% of India's domestic tourists are going to be coming here. So we need to do something very different. And the last point, which is very important, is to recognize and welcome the migrant worker community. You know, in Tamil Nadu, we have a women fertility rate of something like 1.6. That's the same as European Union. That essentially means a so-called demographic dividend that India has, TN does not have. That means for economic growth, we need to make sure we have to attract guest workers from rest of India or anywhere else. Now, this phenomena is already evident, not just in Chennai. When you go to Nellai or Thillai or Madurai or Kovai, in hotels and restaurants, it's really the guest workers who serve us. Now, they form the base of the pyramid that keeps our industries and services ticking. If there is one constituency that has been deeply impacted by the pandemic, it's really the migrant worker community. So anecdotally speaking, most migrant guest workers feel safest in Tamil Nadu. They feel that the Tamils respect them and give them a peaceful place to live. So it's a very natural place for them to come and add economic value. But you really look at our history, this is exactly what you have done. You know, over centuries, we have welcomed Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and Marathi-speaking communities who have contributed immensely to our economic growth. In the last century, we attracted Jains, Marwaris, Gujaratis, Punjabis, Boris, Sindhis, who have made tea in their home, so much so that they have imbibed the Tamil culture and the tradition. They're as much as us as anyone who are born Tamil-speaking person. So we need to make sure that the next wave of immigration from East and Northeast, we welcome them and make them part of Tamil Nadu. So we have to look at crafting a migrant mission that invites them not just to work in Tamil Nadu, but also integrate their families into Tamil way of doing it. That way, not only do they work, but they add economic value by using our vast education, health, and service infrastructure. No other state can do this as well as we can. We have everything going for that. And the last, so essentially to sum up, I have just 5 important points. Revive sustainably the MSMEs, but do it very smartly. Put that 80,000 crores in the 10 or 20,000 MSMEs, which have the best chance of survival growth in a sustainable fashion. Reimagine the housing and the construction industry, restart and reinvigorate the tourism industry, recognize and welcome the migrant worker community, and take advantage of the large Indian and foreign transactional corporations to reinvest. I'm sure that when you do all of this, and the deliberation that we have today will go a long way to put us all into a mission mode to retain, attract, and make Tamil Nadu the most vibrant economy. That's really, Shankar, what I wanted to say. Yeah, if you have any questions, or I can come back later also.
Thank you, Stan. We'll come back to you with questions after we go around the panel once. But
sure. Thank you.
Welcome Honorable Industries Minister, respected Chief Secretary and his team. And I do want to say that, gentlemen, please feel free to ask any questions or interject at any point in time. We will be more than happy to hear you out wherever you are. Let the flow of the panel not be a constraint for you. Thank you. Now, Josh, I want to come to you.
Shankar, I think he's trying to say something. Mr. Shanmugam is trying to say something.
Thank you. First of all, we are very delighted to be a part of this interaction. You are all big business leaders and the pillars of our economy. And when Sri Gopal Srinivasan gave this idea that we also should be a part of this discussion, we're so happy, because something we have been missing is the direct communication with the government and the industrialist. We have an excellent set of officials now, and we want to have a direct communication with you so that we can understand your problem better and we can serve you better. So this has given us a great opportunity. Our Honorable Chief Minister, he has given the introductory remarks, and you know that he is very serious to provide necessary support to our industries, especially in these crisis hours, because the crisis throws open new opportunity. And we should be first to grab that opportunity, because we have the most talented and innovative entrepreneurship in our state. He has been very clear how we are going to deal with the COVID as well as the lockdown. The COVID, you know that we are dealing with the spurt more effectively through the contact tracing and going for very aggressive, extensive testing. We are not bothered about the numbers. Our basic idea is to catch each and every positive case and bring it down. That is the basic idea. On the lockdown issue, we know we have to fight with the COVID parallelly, because we cannot shut down the industries and economic activities, but with a proper caution and care, we have to move simultaneously. That is why he took a very bold decision that we will open up the economic activity step by step. Certain area it has been opened up, and he is having a plan to, the next phase of the relaxation also will be going to do that. But we are very cautious, and all of you are also equally cautious to see that the production plan is properly managed with the proper social distancing and all these things, care and caution. I'm sure that we will be able to move forward. And rest of the things, we are here to only to support and provide all necessary help to the industries to come up, because this is an occasion where new kind of activities we can start, like medical care manufacturing. We have been, as CM is pointing out, that many new industries has come, some concession we have given. Certainly we will be open to provide all necessary support in all other sectors also. And we are having a severe constraint because of the lockdown in major sectors like manufacturing, construction, tourism, hospitality, and service sector. Manufacturing, construction industries, to some extent, we are clearing the bottlenecks, and we will be moving one by one to the other sectors also, particularly tourism and hospitality. Now, all this case, we have to work out the standard operating procedure as a kind of a future strategy. That is the kind of things we are working out, and we will be side by side, we will be fighting the COVID, where after dealing with this kind of a spurt, we are more focused on the ILI and SARI cases, which are coming up in various places, where our focus is to have a very swift and quick action to spot it out, circle it, and close the contact so that it is not spreading to the rest of the area, for which also we are strengthening our health infrastructure and all these things. Thank you very much once again for giving us this opportunity, our minister, all our senior colleagues, Mr. Krishnan, Finance Secretary and Industry Secretary, Muruganandam, Rajesh Kumar from Small Scale Industry, all of us, we are here. We will be greatly benefited from your interaction, and if anything has to be asked from us, please feel free, and we are here to answer you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. For the benefit of the audience, I do want to point out that Tamil Nadu government has a very empowered panel in front of us. We have the ministers for industry through MC Sampath Avargal. We have rural industries minister through Benjamin Avargal. We have industry secretary, chief secretary, principal secretary for MSME, finance secretary, and MSME minister. So it's a very large and empowered panel. Every relevant portfolio is represented here. And we hope that the message that we are hearing today, which we shall compile and pass on to Honorable Chief Secretary tomorrow, will be taken up, and at least whatever is possible be done in the most expeditious manner. Thank you. Josh, I want to move on to you. Some few months ago, you were kind enough to invite a bunch of us to your factory. And the thing that, that hit us in the face as soon as we entered was your staff composition. We found it very unique, and I don't want to steal your thunder by saying what it was, but we did find it very unique, and it is something I think everybody else of us has to learn from. So that is the first thing I'd like you to speak about. And the second thing I would like to pick your brains on is that, there is a lot of scope for electronics manufacturing to be transferred from other countries to India and then to Tamil Nadu within that. What must India and Tamil Nadu do to win in this race? Very shortly and simply. So that's my questions to you. Over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Respected ministers, Mr. Sampath, it's a pleasure to see you, sir. CS sir, Mr. Muruganandam, other secretaries, consul generals. It's very hard to go after three industry titans who I consider are my mentors. Mr. Venu is one of the reasons we came back to Tamil Nadu. And so it's definitely a pleasure to be here. And so if it's okay, Mr. Shankar, maybe I will take the second question first regarding what the other countries are doing. See, I think electronics industry is, in my humble opinion, I think one of the most important industries in the next 10 years. And of course, India is no stranger to electronics. We've had a very reasonable electronics industry in the 80s and 90s. But today, apart from the usual countries, the electronics industry is centered in countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand as well. Now, one of the things which I found very gratifying as India and Tamil Nadu's response. So in India, the new corporate tax for manufacturing companies of about 17% is definitely something which is worth pushing forward as we pitch Make in India story forward. In the electronics industry, there were 3 new policies which were announced. One of that was the PLI scheme, the production linked incentive scheme, the specs scheme for components, and the EMC2. So I think from India's standpoint, we definitely have I think a wonderful pitch deck for Make in India, right? I think in terms of Make in Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu has welcomed our industry, electronics, for 15 years. And I think there are 2 things which I think are very notable. I've always had the greatest luck with the industries department. The industries ministry in Tamil Nadu has always been phenomenal. Single window clearance has been functional. And we have to pitch this further as a proud moment as companies and as an industry. Mr. Muruganandam's team, Mr. Arun Rai, Mr. Kumar Virubaran, and Dr. Mittal, all this entire team is phenomenal. I think we have to really push this team forward. The second thing which I've been advising is based on this EMC2 cluster and this is something which most countries do pitch. You go to Vietnam. I've spent a couple of years in Vietnam, and this sort of cluster approach with ready-built shelters is very, very important. And so whether we put it in Chennai or in tier 2 towns like Mr. Venu was talking about, I think we definitely have to look at a ready-built shelters. So I believe with this kind of ammo, we can really say, okay, Make in India, come Make in Tamil Nadu. Okay. Now, going to your first question regarding our composition of employees, electronics industry as an industry is usually large scale employment and large scale technology. So it's a combination of both. And it's also very high working capital. So you have to be very, very careful and precise in how you manage these things. Now, the challenge is that this kind of, and it's also scale. The scale requires people, a lot of people, thousands of people. And it's very, very important that we look at people who are from other districts of Tamil Nadu and possibly other states. The second thing is the women in the workforce in India, even in Tamil Nadu, even in a very mature state like Tamil Nadu, is low. So women in the workforce is something which this industry has done very well. Now, what we have done with women coming from other districts and maybe other states, the most important thing they look for is safety, the care, and let's say the proximal accommodation to their work. Social infrastructure will be great, but I think these are the priorities which these individuals have, and I think really having our industry has really done a very good job in my mind. I'll say mainly in the last 5 years, and we've been very proud to be a part of that exercise, working closely with the Tamil Nadu government in doing this. This provides upskilling opportunities for women coming from various districts and so on and so forth. The thing which we would continue to seek support from the government is the proximal accommodation for these ladies to come and stay. And I think this is something which will help us scale and will also help us, the society, in a much manner. And hopefully we will we will give you and others many more tours, Mr. Shankar, in the future.
Thank you, Josh. I do have something more to ask you, but I'll come back to you in a bit.
Right,
Dr. You're from Coimbatore, and Coimbatore, to my mind, has been the city that is coming out for a long time. What does Tamil Nadu state need to do to make all the tier 2 cities new engines of growth? If you spend your entire time just on this one subject, I think it will be value for us. Though I do have other things to ask you.
Thank you, Shankar. Honorable ministers, Chief Secretary, Principal Secretary, and secretaries of the government, it's my pleasure to be here. That's a big cauldron of a question, Shankar. I think I will talk about the situation of the economy past this crisis, and then in that context talk about some of the pressing issues that we need to deal with, and maybe probably more parochially relevant to places like Coimbatore, but I'm sure it's equally relevant elsewhere as well. Now, one of the key challenges in Tamil Nadu is the deficiency of indigenous labor, especially in manufacturing, right? So over the last 20 years, manufacturing had sourced labor in some of the weaker districts, and when that got exhausted, they moved on to migrant labor, and that was a labor arbitrage at a very transactional level, right? Now, this crisis has proven that transactionally handling migrant labor is very dangerous, is very risky, and it's not sustainable, right? So I think it's important that government, and it's not just government, I think there has to be a public and private partnership in this whole process, by which, sort of relating to what Santanam said, how do we integrate people from all over the state into our state on a permanent basis so that the deficiency of the indigenous labor market is permanently rectified? And I think this is very critical for the long-term sustenance of economic activity in our state, because such a large portion of our industry, especially manufacturing, is dependent on migrant workers. And today, even as the recovery is happening, we are beginning to see all kinds of challenges where people are migrating back to their home state for safety or whatever reason. There is a huge challenge and people are stuck. So I think this is something that we need to look at as a medium-term initiative by which we integrate people. And it's not about just transactionally making jobs available. I think it's transformationally saying, how can Tamil Nadu become the home for many of these migrant workers, and not just the workers, for their families as well. So it's a broader sociology study based kind of an initiative that has to be made on a medium-term basis. Now, segueing down to how to handle some of the current issues that we are facing, I'd like to talk about a couple of issues. One is, labor laws were enacted when the balance of power was always with the employer, and there was logical, good reasons to enact them. And they are good laws, and I think they are necessary to maintain stability in society, and it has to be done. But in the current situation, what is required to migrate through this crisis, we need a lot of flexibility. Flexibility on the part of the employer and flexibility on the part of the employee. I think the foundational goal should be to protect employment. And if the employer assumes that primary responsibility, the employer needs to be given some level of flexibility in terms of how he can deal with labor without compromising on their fundamental rights, safety, health, and all the other critical factors. I think this is something that we need to manage in the short term. I don't want to sit here and list down all the labor laws that need to be reviewed, but there are some that with the right amount of either you freeze it for a few months till the crisis is over, gives a lot of flexibility. And this is particularly true for MSME, where they are bombarded on all different directions. They have a problem of labor, with migrant labor not available. They've got to deal with very, very tight labor laws that were relevant under a more steady state condition, but are very stifling under the current condition. So this is something that we need to jointly review and put in place. And the third piece that I would like to talk about is, the central government has with great difficulty, I think we, as an economy and as a country, we are under a lot of challenges. Under these challenging conditions, they have come up with a scheme or a package for revival of the economy. And specifically with MSME, which is a large constituent of companies from where I come from, a debt-based assistance could be a big challenge for most of them, right? Yeah, they need assistance at a fundamental structure in their balance sheet that doesn't force, there is no compulsion of a repayment and a cash flow. Now, as we see it, this recovery is not going to be an instant recovery. It's going to take time. And when you have time and you have a large amount of debt in your balance sheet, even if the debt is subsidized, there is a repayment obligation that's going to be very difficult for a lot of these MSMEs. So the kind of intervention that is required is, there is money that is required, but the injection is not in the form of debt. It has to be something that will make the MSMEs a lot more stronger on their balance sheet level. So these are the points I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya. Now, the last point that you mentioned, that is the necessity to recapitalize MSMEs, not merely give them more debt. Did you have any structure in mind that could enable that? Have you given it some thought?
I think I'm sure there are a lot of creative minds who are experts in how to make this happen. But I think government's participation in MSMEs in the form of equity or in the form of course, you need to have certain control mechanisms to make this happen. You don't want people who will leverage the system to their benefit. But I'm pretty sure there are enough smart people in our government to figure this out and how to make this happen, but at the same time retain control over it.
One of the thoughts that has been going around is that we create AIFs, where the government would be a significant capital provider to the AIF as a LP. And AIF would also raise money from private investors. Then the disbursement of that would follow the normal investment committee pattern that AIFs follow. And it would be arm's length from the government in terms of decision making on investment monitoring and so on and so forth. Do you think that is a viable way forward?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a microcosm of how private equity works. And I think if we can bring that private equity model with a little less kind of a return expectation, a moderated return expectation. I think that model exists, so we can learn from that model. And there are outstanding companies in our state, in MSME, producing some great products, and all they need is that kind of a support, and they can take off.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Jairam. Krithivasan, you are at the center of a storm right now. The IT industry has just announced that work from home is going to be a permanent and large component of the delivery model going forward. Numbers range from anywhere to 40 to 50 to even 75%. What caused the sudden change in thinking? Are you taking advantage of a shift that has occurred because of COVID, or was this pre-existing thought which you found it timely to implement? What are the challenges that you've thought about and how will you overcome them? Over to you.
Thanks, Shankar. First of all, good evening to all the honorable ministers, secretaries, and the eminent panelists here. Pleasure and honor to be talking in front of all of you. Shankar, the question around work from home. See, this has been in cooking for quite some time for different evolution and the technology change, right? About few years ago, or when I say few, about 30 years ago, when we started the on-site offshore model, we had to tweak it in sense the same project could be done both at on-site and offshore simultaneously, but with different time zones. Then you increase the multiple countries which were operating. And then we worked on what we call a location independent agile model, where smaller teams can work from multiple places, but we never actually thought of all the associates working from home all the time. Like our models were always tweaked towards people working from office, but in smaller teams in distributed locations. But when this thing happened, we realized the only way we can sustain the critical services that we are providing to our clients is to quickly enable working from home for all our associates. But shipping all the desktops everybody's home is just not sufficient, right? We need to have something to sustain it on a long-term basis. Okay, we had to create a security infrastructure, like what is going to ensure our clients' data and assets are kept safe. And how do you connect with all the associates on a daily basis so that their morale is up? And what is the collaboration infrastructure you put in place so that they don't miss coming to office, and they ensure that there is a very tight communication that's possible. And we also brought in the quality management system. Like we had to tweak many of these fundamentals, and we layered all of them. We actually call it our secure borderless workspaces. We don't call them as work from home within TCS. We believe that having created this infrastructure, we have got what is something very sustainable that can go on for a long time. So our stated vision is what we call a 25 by 25 model, wherein we expect not more than 25% of the associates to be coming to work any point in time. Similarly, not any associate not to come for more than 25% of his or her time to be in work. So that's what we call it. It's not that we are going to do it tomorrow or within a short period. We'll be working with our clients, but that we believe is quite possible. And it has immense advantages. Like for instance, today, if I do a project in Chennai, I need to find resources, associates who can work with us in Chennai. But when we move towards this model, I don't have to worry about whether the associate is in Chennai, Trichy, Coimbatore, any other place they can work from where they are comfortable from. And all they have to do is maybe come to Chennai for 1 week a month. And also, Mr. George talked about participation of women in his industry. You have to give credit to IT industry as well, where we have close to about 50% of the new joinees or women. And TCS today has more than 150,000 women associates working. Look at from that perspective, the biggest challenge we have is many of them may enter, but because of life stage decisions they make, they choose taking care of family over career. But this working from home, or what we call a SPWS option, gives multiple advantages and options to them. They can continue to participate in a workforce for a much longer time. So we believe this is something we should be continuing, and we will nurture, we will develop it. But we are going to need both short-term and long-term support from the government as well. See, for instance, we have just within in a half, like we took all the desktops, we took permission from the SEZ authorities to wherever the associates are. But we need to ensure that the appropriate legal regimes are there in place so that we are not forced to bring them back. We don't know how the situation would pan out. We shouldn't be in a position that we bring them back again, we have to go take them back to their home. So we need the appropriate regime. And as these people are working from home, what's happening is there are some concerns on whether there's a sustainable power, is a broadband available in every place. Like as you go into the villages, these are not taken for granted. In Chennai, it's today, touch wood, we are in a very comfortable situation. In fact, as we move through the work from home option, in fact, Tamil Nadu government, I would say, was one of the most collaborative. First of all, we had a couple of days of lead time before, compared to most other states. We had 2 days of planning. We can ship most things, and we also were able to, even after the lockdown, we were able to enable. So we talked about power, we talked about broadband connectivity. And we may also need in smaller cities, can we create some rentable office spaces when associates can just go sit work there, because they may not have the same, Mr. Santanam talked about people wanting to have a home office or something like a home office within the home, where it is not possible. Can you create a small cluster where some 50, 100 people can work in a safe way, where you provide a safe network security, and maybe can give a supervision to ensure that the customer data is safe. So those are some of the things that would sustain it on a long-term basis. And most importantly, also feel we have to give a comfort to our customers as well, that the governments here are very serious about the essential and critical services we are providing to them. In India, what's happening is the moment this essential service, we talk about banks, hospitals being considered essential service. But some of our clients get worried because we provide essential service to them. If we are not operating, some of the banks there cannot operate, some of the hospitals cannot get their cash flow in time. Can we include IT industry in general as an essential service, so that the critical services not only to the Indian clients or Indian can be provided to all the overall globally, we can continue to provide. That goes a long way in providing the comfort to the clients that we are working with. These are some of the things I thought are what we should do in the near term. I can
Thank
talk
you.
about, we have some views on the long term.
If I can just make an observation on your strategy to work from home, going up to 75% over the years and so on. Now, surely one man's revenue is one other man's cost and vice versa. So this process is going to result in revenue impact for a whole lot of vendors who support the IT ecosystem. That's fine. Creative destruction happens all over the world. As an observation, I hope and pray that the value that is saved by somebody and captured by somebody is all within the Indian ecosystem, and none of it goes away as price reductions to clients abroad, or at least a smaller percentage goes as price reductions to customers abroad. That's what I hope and pray. I know you can't answer that and I can't answer that.
Not okay. Thank you.
The question I really wanted to ask you was that, Mr. Venu Srinivasan talked about social infrastructure and the white collar portion of his management team wanting to have a nice time in the evenings and so on. Now, your workforce is actually 100% of that time, almost. Right. Tell me, how does this should impact you a lot more than it would impact a typical manufacturing company? What is your view on that?
See, like when I spoke to you also, I mentioned like Tamil Nadu produces so many bright engineers. Like we have close to about 300,000 engineers graduating every year. Out of that, about 30,000 or what we would call a tier 1 institutes where we go and attract people. But even though we produce so many, how many of them continue to work in Tamil Nadu? Like a vast majority of them go work outside Tamil Nadu. And particularly the cream that you want to keep in Tamil Nadu, like the guys that are coming out of the IITs or the IIMs. How many of them, what's actually going to kickstart or grow, sustain our economy are the startups. Okay, why are the startups that first of all, we don't have them in Tamil Nadu or Chennai, or even if you have some of them, the moment they attain some critical mass, they shift to Bangalore again. Okay, it is because like Mr. Venu Srinivasan put it nicely, like we are not seen as a cool place to be in. Okay, he said that it is not a cosmopolitan place, but the youngsters don't find us to be cool. It's nothing against Chennai. Like as I told you, I love Chennai. I've been here forever. And there's also another observation when you speak to outsiders that been living in Tamil Nadu for a while. What would they will tell you is coming and acclimatizing to Tamil Nadu is the toughest thing. If you can cross the first 2 years or 3 years, they love this place after that. They say, I like the culture, I like the safety, everything. But the first 3 years are not difficult because it's a big change for anyone. Yeah. And we need to make the place more welcoming. We need to bring in whatever would create that coolness factor. He mentioned about creating townships. I would say even on a small scale, if you can do, see, we have very good governance, we have good technology. Can we create some, say, enclave around, let's say, OMR?
Thank you. I think you emphasize, it's a very good emphasis that you've given on this point. Yes, we do need social infrastructure. People who lived here all their lives don't miss it, but people who come from elsewhere certainly find its absence. I totally accept it. I want to go once around the panel, asking this one last question, which is that there is a set of rules and regulations that have been put out by government that govern our return to normality in the area of manufacturing, in the area of services, in the area of retail. Are there any adjustments that need to be made to it based on the experience of the last 2 weeks? And if so, what would they be? Start with you, Sant.
One, I think Tamil Nadu government, particularly the districts in which you operate, the collectors, have been extremely cooperative. I think they have been, we actually sat with them and worked out many of the guidelines that are absolutely must for a safe and sanitary start. So clearly, I think there is a lot of collaboration going on. There's a lot of conversation going on. Just as I speak this morning, we had the collector accompanied by several officials and the media visited our factory to get an understanding of how it actually happens. How does social distancing happen in a factory which is running at nearly 50% capacity? What we need is actually trust and empathy. If we want to come out of the COVID, the lockdown is okay. We've achieved to some extent flattening. We have understood what it means. We've got a lot of people under discipline. Now we need to trust the industries to be able to implement it, because it's as important for me as an occupier of large factories in Tamil Nadu to make sure every one of those persons who's coming into the site is safe. So therefore, what we need is more trust. And today, the biggest fear that a factory owner will have is, if I have a COVID in my positive in my factory, there is a very likelihood that the factory would be shut for the next 14 days. Now, that kind of a fear would be a big challenge. So given that COVID epidemic is not going to go away in the next few weeks or months, we need that comfort and assurance that so long as we trust the factories and the sites to take care of the conditions that are needed for safe sanitary start of the factory, we need to be trusted and we have to be empathetic. So this is very, very important. Otherwise, my fear is we will have a start and stop syndrome, and then we will never get out of this current economic crisis that we are facing. And as I'm speaking today, one thing is, I just want to tell you, our group in China today, in the month of May, is at 100% level of activity. So it's not that other countries who have gone through a very challenging situation have not done that. I think we need to be very systematic, and we need to also trust and be transparent with our industries to make sure that we support them when they really need the most now.
I want to make a point.
Sorry, please, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I think what Mr. Santanam says is really, many people are having this fear. We would like to clarify that our SOP, we should understand it is all evolving. What we have given is a kind of principles or discipline which we understand as it is now. But we have to make some improvement as we gain experience. As such, we have been requesting the industries to realign their production process, to create a kind of a standby option. Suppose a person is testing COVID, your production line should not be disturbed. Only that particular section has to be taken out and isolated. Substitute with the next substitute people, continue the production line. So that is the kind of instructions we have given. Of course, we take all precautions that the health status of the laborers when they come every day, we have to test. Sure. But there may be a chance, we can't rule it out, an occasion may come, somebody may feel sick also when they are working. But our intention is the production should never get stopped. we have to get prepared with a standby plan by only isolating that particular section or the person and remove him for isolation and treatment, substitute with a fresh one. So this is the idea on which we have been working. So industries need not have a fear that the moment somebody is identified, the entire industry will be shut. So that is not the case. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. That's most reassuring. I think that it's really music to all the industries to listen to this coming from the Chief Secretary. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sam. We have a few members of the audience, distinguished members of the audience who have wanted to say a few words. I would now like to invite Mr. Punasamy of Ponpure Chemicals. Sir, can you please come on board?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Are you hearing me?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm thankful to Honorable Chief Minister, Ministers, Chief Secretary, and Secretaries available here. Really, it is a big change the Tamil Nadu government has done by bringing totally cultural change in the official working. See, they have become like no authority to facilitator. I think that is the big change. And also we can see the officers. I think right people are at industry department and MSC department and finance, whatever is there. I think right people at the right place and they are proactive. And we are able to, even the COVID period, lockdown period, sometimes we used to send message to secretary, MSME secretary, principal secretary, industries, even CS, chief secretary. They're responsive. I think this is one of the biggest change I am seeing it. Sometimes one department is not giving permission to open some essential industries like that. And even 10:30 we used to receive a message that it has been spoken and they can start the industry. This is the big change I am seeing. And also because somebody told also about single window system, I think it's working both for industry and MSME. And also the COVID period, I think they were working 24/7. You can see it for major industries, Guidance Bureau, and for MSME, commissioner industries. I think they are able to, anytime they can go and contact and get whatever the process required or anything. I think that is the big change we are seeing, we have experienced. And also we can see some of the sectors. We are good in automobile, we are good in IT, we are good in textiles, we are big. But there are some sectors we are also talking to the government. I think chemical and pharmaceutical sector, I think it's need a big attention because globally chemical industry is 7% of the GDP. India it's only 3%, but whereas the consumption of chemical is going up in India, per capita consumption is going up. I think that already the Chief Secretary and Industry Secretary, they are working on a 10 billion investment of petrochemical. It's in the process, something like that. And also 1 or 2 requests I make to the government. I think you are kind enough to make conversion of land from agriculture to industries by online within 60 days. That is on. We also request agricultural land ceiling to be removed, or it can be done within a shortest period. And also, what we are requesting is now the single window pre-approvals are there. Can we do it post once the construction of factories where the same kind of approval can be given? I think this is my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Punasamy sir. I would now like to invite Mr. Rafiq Ahmed of the Farida Leather Group. Please come online, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir, and honorable ministers and Chief Secretary, Mr. Muruganandam, Industry Secretary, MSC Secretary, Krishnan, and all of them. It has been a nice discussion which is going on here. This is the first time I have seen everybody interacting with the whole idea is to see how we can come back. Tamil Nadu can come back in the industries. As far as I'm representing the industry as a leather industry, sir, we are one of the largest employment of women workers in Tamil Nadu. We have about 3 lakhs workers employed in footwear sector alone, women workers I'm talking about for there. In the whole of the headache of the elsewhere Vellore district, now it is into 3 districts. The economy is controlled by this industry only, I can tell you. There is no agriculture, there is no BD workers, nothing is there now. It is the industry which is supporting. how we can continue that development, how we can increase that. That is what my thing. I came into this business in 1964. 1964, I came into the business. More probably most of them would not have born that time. I have seen how this industry was going in. We have missed the bus once when China, when the people shifted from Korea and other places to China. Now a shift is coming from China to India, and the kind of brands, international brands, want to source from India. So the first is to look after the industries which are there currently, how to strengthen them, how to important them. My thing is, sir, is that we need a new industrial cluster to be established near the existing cluster. Sometimes when you tell them, they say go to Ramanathapuram and go to this place. That's not possible. There is no work culture. There is no way. It has to be a near natural cluster. Tamil Nadu is Vellore district is a natural cluster. Very high concentration of skills there. That nearby we have to create, and that also should be plug and play, ready-made. You will see a jump in the whole production and employment on there. Secondly, the other is that we need a women's dormitory to be supported by Tamil Nadu government should support on this. Women dormitory should be, because 70% of employment is women. And we have exhausted the women around 40 kilometers. That is the highest time we can give them to come in a bus or something. We cannot go beyond that. But the people are there. They want to work in these factories. So we need a dormitory, women's dormitory to be established in that cluster. And we will come out with a proposal. I am sure that Minister is here and Chief Secretary is here who will give attention to that. Sir, one of the biggest problems, sir, is the approval of the land approvals in the industries, which has been existing there. They say you should have applied before. You already started it. Now you can't go through it. You can't do that. You can't come under a single window is okay for the new fresh industries. What about the existing industries? Because they have to be given, per se, whatever the industries are located, that land has to be given as the approval of the land approval has to be given as the industry's land. That is very, very important, because we cannot sustain bank loans. We can't go to any other approval for central governments. We need that land approval, which is necessary. And second, the very important, sir, is as in the case of Agra, which is another big cluster of footwear, they have declared white category is the footwear industry in their pollution control board. Pollution control board of UP government has declared them as a white industry. That is non-polluting industry, does not require so many of the regulations. It is highly necessary today. For everything, I had to go to the pollution board, and you know that what are the difficulties we are facing with them. Without any pollution, we have the headache. So Chief Secretary, Ministers, everybody is here. Please consider us moving us into the white category on the pollution control boards categories wise. And last one is that workers training should be funded. There must be more skill we should create, and we had to be funded there. So these are the things which we wanted. For the one which want to come from China, actually we are ourselves is negotiating with the big giant group in China, and they want to come in. Then they say the land, the thing, all these problems they are finding it. Sir, we must have a plug and play factory separately for them. Least is 250,000 square feet to 400,000 square feet they want for one factory. That is the size of the factory they want. It has to be there, and there is some flexibility of law they wanted to ensure that. So one idea I have got it, sir, is this: we must engage. Tamil Nadu government should engage Ernst & Young, like multinational companies, for a reference for the Tamil Nadu government's facilities. That will make it easier for them to come, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafiqji.
Can I just quickly
Yes.
Mr. Shankar, this is Krishnan here. Can I quickly intervene?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for having us all on this panel discussion. Maybe if I take my mask off, you can at least see a bit more of my face. Now, a couple of points which got raised earlier today. First, on the industrial townships and industrial estates and making more plug-and-play facilities. I'm aware that SIPCOT is moving very strongly in that direction. larger industrial estate and also opening up the space for private industrial parks and industrial estates to be developed with the facilities for social infrastructure that Mr. Venu Srinivasan had spoken about. It made the same point to the high-level committee chaired by Dr. C. Rangarajan as well, and that is certainly something which we will take up. The second thing I think where we are very well positioned as a state is on industrial housing on a PPP basis. I think just before all this COVID crisis broke, or in fact, we negotiated probably the first World Bank project entirely done by video conferencing through the COVID crisis for the Tamil Nadu new habitat and housing project, which has a big chunk of funding for a shelter fund, which is intended purely to develop through the Tamil Nadu Shelter Fund, industrial and working housing, rental housing. And we've also set up a SPV for women's working hostels and dormitories, precisely of the kind that Mr. Rafiq Ahmed spoke about. So this is something that we can ramp up very quickly. So wherever in industrial clusters, whether it is in the erstwhile Vellore district, Ambur, Vaniambadi, that belt, or in Tirupur, or wherever we have industrial clusters, this is something that we can get to act on very quickly. We have the institutional structure in place, we have the financing in place, and this is something that we can work on very quickly. Similarly, this is in an AIF format. Mr. Jairam mentioned that if we could have an AIF format which could bring in some of the equity funding that MSMEs would require, I think we have models in place and we can start off on that very quickly. So I think we are in a situation, we are placed in a way that we can move very quickly on many of these. Some of the land-related matters have also been cleared up in terms of permissions. Mr. Ponusamy spoke about that. We should be able to clear up a lot of the permissions. We have also made land utilization much more efficient. So land utilization much more efficient by increasing the portion of land that we can use. The land ceiling clearances as well, the 37B clearances, the dreaded 37B clearances have also been substantially simplified. So which means that would be one more aspect of compliance which can be easily done. It never stood in the way of actual construction, but subsequent compliances were a problem, but that has also been eased out. And again, through this COVID period, we worked through that and got that aspect done. So on many of these clearances, I think this is something that we can work through and get done quickly. On the issue of regularization or approvals for industrial use of land, there is a regularization scheme which has been asked for. It has been raised by CII a number of times in the recent past, and that's again something which I know the Housing Department is working on. So that again is something that we can clear out. So all that I would like to say is that we are at, in some senses, we have an opportunity and we are at a sweet spot where a number of these initiatives can be taken up and scaled up quickly. Some are already in the works and gotten done, and one or two like the land regularization for industry is something that can also be launched quickly. So the signs are certainly hopeful, and we would love to work with various members of industry to see that this is seen through quickly, including particularly the financing arrangements. Because if you look at the arrangement that the Government of India has announced, I think an important lacuna there is the equity funding. Where will the necessary equity funding come up? And even with the additional working capital, a lot of it will actually go back into servicing debt. So how much will be left for the additional investments that need to be made is a question mark. This is something that we've been thinking about. And an alternate investment fund to tackle that is something that the state government would be quite happy to initiate, sponsor, and carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You know, when I was talking to the panel ahead of this discussion, the one thing they were unanimous on is that the quality of the bureaucracy and the responsiveness of the bureaucracy of the state is simply outstanding in comparison to any other state. And Mr. Krishnan, you have just proved that to us. Thank you, sir. I go on to Hari now. Hari, please.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar, and I'd like to thank Mr. Gopal Srinivasan for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. Good evening to all the honorable ministers, chief secretary and principal secretaries here, and captains of industry. Sir, as you know, textiles contributes a lot to the state GDP of Tamil Nadu. 46% of the spinning capacity in India is today situated in our state. And the entire textile market, Tamil Nadu holds a lion's share of about 1/3 of the entire market today. So that said, I would like to basically touch upon three very key areas, starting with labor and then moving on to power, and also requesting something on the Tamil Nadu textile policy, which was announced last year. So as you know, 10 to 12% of the manufacturing cost in the textile industry is attributed to labor. And I think we are at the right point in time to make a very detailed database of all the migrant laborers who are in Tamil Nadu, starting with the textile industry and moving on to the other sectors. And I think it's time that we work together with the government and create a very detailed database of all the migrant laborers who are here today. We also have a request to the government for maintaining the prevailing minimum wages and to have status quo continue for some time, because this would really be a fillip to the textile industry, where a large part of the cost is attributed to labor. Some of the labor laws has already been discussed in this panel. We would request for some certain relaxations, and we have also written to you in detail about it. And I think the time is opportune to spend more resources and time on skilling of the labor today in Tamil Nadu, because I think labor productivity and labor efficiency is something that we really need to be good at to attract global supply chains into Tamil Nadu from China and other countries. Next, I would like to move on to power. Power also is about 14% of the manufacturing cost today. And as you know, all industries in Tamil Nadu today, most of them are facing an issue with the standing charges or the MD charges, which is being levied. And there are some industries or some factories which have not been working even to 50% because they're scared that the issue which is there with the MD charges is actually keeping them away. So really request the government and all the secretaries here to look at this and help industry where we should be only charged 20% of the MD charges according to the TNERC rule. And there is also an issue with the power factor, which I hope that the government will address in due course of time. Sir, the last issue that I want to touch upon in detail is the very attractive textile policy which the government of Tamil Nadu released in 2019 March. But we are still awaiting the guidelines to implement this textile policy. And I think it's very important that we have the right guidelines in place to attract global supply chains, because without the guidelines we can't move very far. The central government has given 3 textile parks, one in Ramnad, which has a sea discharge facility of effluent treatment, and also a zero liquid discharge facility there. And the Salem Textile Park has also been notified for the technical and medical textiles, and the Tuticorin Textile Park as a plug-and-play model for the garment sector. So we would request that if the guidelines are given for these textile parks in due course of time, I'm sure Tamil Nadu can play a very important role in attracting global investments and also attracting investments in the textile sector, which also can create a lot of jobs. The policy is quite attractive, in which you've said that additional 5% capital subsidy will be given for companies which set shop, especially in the southern districts. I think that's a very, very welcome move. And we from southern states of Tamil Nadu, especially in places like Madurai and Ramnad, which need a lot of big ticket investments, will definitely count on all the support of the government. And the last thing which I want to request is the market committee cess, which is there on cotton and waste cotton, and this is about 1%. And we'll also request the government at this point in time to revisit the market committee cess, which is there, and iron out these issues facing the textile industry. Thank you for the opportunity once again.
Thank you, Hari. Would anybody like to respond to this from amongst the government team, or shall we move on?
So we will look at these various requests, especially these minimum demand charges and other issues, especially this cotton based. In principle, we all agree that it is not directly an agricultural produce, but it is a byproduct of industry. Some discussion is going on, but let us look at it again. And regarding this textile park, sometime back, central government asked that whether any state government is willing to develop any textile park, because basically to create a facility to absorb some of the shifting industries from China. So we have offered them at least 2 parks. We can propose one at Salem and another one in southern part of Tamil Nadu, where large number of spinning mills are there. We have identified land. We are waiting for the response from Government of India. Maybe if they give the clearance, we'll work on that. We have the land and everything is, we are in a position to identify. And we can quickly get into that the moment clearance is given by a union government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Mr. Ramurthy Ranganathan, President of CODISIA. CODISIA is the Coimbatore District Small Industries Association. Please come online, sir.
Good evening to all of you, respected Chief Secretary, Assistant Chief Secretary, Finance, Industry Secretary, and MSME Secretary, and all the industrial captains. Warm greetings to you all from CODISIA. First of all, to the Chief Secretary, yes, I got today the opportunity to have an interaction with the Chief Secretary. I already in the exit strategy committee meeting, I had a good deal of interaction with A. Krishnan sir. So first, my appeal is Coimbatore is a unique city where all large scale and MSMEs are clubbed together, and it is all within the corporation limits. So our request to Coimbatore city as a special case, allow from Monday 18th all the industries to run, and once the manufacturing activities kicks up, so only the economic activity can sustain and grow. Already it's 3 months we have lost, and 1 quarter is going to be there. And if we take a trial also, MSMEs and all other industries will take till December to sustain and survive. I don't think so we can even break even till that time. So we need for Coimbatore as a special case, sir. Coimbatore is everything is within corporation limits, most of 80%. The second, sir, we should thank the Honorable Chief Minister also to put forth our views on 18.4, which we have given to the Honorable Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, and the MSME ministers, and where they have put up and taken up our issues. And as far as the monetary policy concerned, as the bank loans, they have really understood the MSMEs. And the thing, and for that we should thank from CODISIA, we are thanking the Honorable Finance Minister. The Deputy Chief Minister has also done the same thing. So, but we are asking from through your Honorable Chief Minister that only the monetary policies, all loans they have sanctioned, but the other part, we asked for MSMEs especially that for the lockdown period we need nil interest, and for the we need a moratorium of minimum 1 year, and the loan amount should be restructured so that these three always I used to say in an MSME fixed and the variable cost, when we keep it for the last 3 months at the same level, I don't think so we can recoup and come back at one stroke. And until December, this is going to be the same. So I think this is a very serious consideration, and from the Tamil Nadu, all officials here, and you should also, we have from CODISIA, we get taken to the top finance minister level, and you should also do that so that the fiscal stimulus has to happen now. That should be from Tamil Nadu government, the fiscal stimulus has to happen at least to a certain level. And the next one to the Tamil Nadu government, we have put up, we are already on 4 or 5, we have given you to the Chief Minister certain the small requests, sir. One is the stamp duty. Once the government will start lending, again, MOD charges for MSMEs is very high. It comes around 25 to 30,000. And then that is, this time it's going to be a burden. And this I've already requested to the Krishnan sir, and I think We did a waiver for that, sir. And electricity is also HTA already they have said that if to TNERC that you can pay only 20%, but still they TNB. This time I think there should be some concession for all the industries from large scale to micro. The supply chain is such a way that when large scale industries are doing good, then only medium, small and micro can do, sir. So for HTA industries as well as for LT and CD, the charges has to be waived off for the 3 months. And the one more request from our side, MSME, is the change in labor law, sir. This is very predominantly required, and through our industry commissioner, madam, on 13/5, I have sent a memorandum to that, and I'll send to you also today, so that labor laws should be flexible and it should be changed after COVID. You should give a preference. And the one more thing, sir, interest subsidy, Tamil Nadu government can consider, sir, till 6%. Tamil Nadu, and I think so, for only MSME sector, we are asking, sir, Tamil Nadu government might be coming around 200 crores something, which we can even pay after 2 or 3 years. When you put up a surcharge, we are ready to pay. Our request from MSME Association, please invest on us after 2 or 3 years, or even 2 years, when we are sustaining, you put up some surcharge and take back the amount. So I think Tamil Nadu government can now pitch in for the 6% interest subsidy, sir. Please, that can be favored, and I'll be sending you after this meeting a representation for interest subsidy also, which I have added today, sir. And all other requests which we have already made to you, sir, and can be considered. And one more thing, now Odisha has come into, and 2 industrial parks with 350 acres and 350 companies are going to come. And after Corona, the situation, we should know how it's going to come up. And request to the Tamil Nadu government that Coimbatore is a hub of MSME and large-scale industries, and it can be converted into a 100 kilometers radius into different industries, so that from now next to Chennai, Coimbatore can be an industrial hub. And whatever your revenue you are getting from Chennai, in the next 3 years, if Coimbatore is developed into 100 kilometers radius, the Tamil Nadu government GDP will get doubled, sir. So that we can assure you from MSMEs and all the large-scale industries of Coimbatore. And I think the Tamil Nadu government should step in and create a 100 kilometers radius township. And already Odisha Honorable Chief Minister has inaugurated the 2 industrial parks where 350 companies are going to come. And we are waiting for orders. But after COVID-19, we don't know what is going to happen. It's a big challenge for us. And I think the industrialization can happen at Coimbatore at a very fast level, so that we can grab the opportunity. And my next one is to the great industrial captains. The MSMEs are in between, and there are certain MSMEs who are doing products, and certain are totally dependent on large-scale industries, both DPSUs, public sector as well as the private sector. The Odisha has come into an Odisha Defense Innovation and Atal Incubation Center, where the Atal Incubation Center, in March only, they have invested 2 crores to Odisha, and Odisha has invested 2.34 crores on the project, and it is in the starting stage. The prime objective is for the defense product to make it industrialization, innovation and incubation. It has been started. Why not only for defense? My question today to all the panelists: all large-scale industries are importing materials from other countries, and that import substitution, when defense wants to make a substitution for their products, why not you give all you can give it to all the MSMEs with the target rate what you are importing. Let us try from here. This is the time that we will not have much work for the next 6 months. So you give. So now Odisha has got an incubation center as well as. So it's an example only I'm telling. So you can give to Odisha, and the same way other associations, leading associations throughout Tamil Nadu can take up, and they can develop the product for you, make a standard with the quality standards, and come to your price, so that you can all buy it from the MSMEs. So when the Tamil Nadu, when the government of India wants an import, doesn't want import for defense, why not all the large scale industries in India stop importing and give an MSME a chance? And this is the right time that is when the order is less for MSMEs, we can also come up, and we are also quality conscious, and we can also learn. So we can also do that. So and one more question to the great industrial captains, that how you are all going to support MSMEs. And when you are all having full with orders, and when we are able to operate at 100% capacity or 90% itself, our sustains and our profit margin is very less. All the MSMEs. But when we are going to end up at 50% and again more debt burden for us, then this is going to be a challenge for MSMEs. And I think everybody should, as Prime Minister said, mutual trust, and everybody should trust each other and give an hand holding. And MSMEs are the backbone of Indian industry, and we need a support from everyone, so that once we survey, Once when we survive only, we can help all everybody to come out of the woods. So my appeal to all industry
Time check, Shankar. I think we should move. Yeah, thanks. Just a quick time check, Shankar. I think we should move. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any response from the government team or should, yes, please.
I think by the time we were discussing, there is a order also issued. Functioning of all industrial units, including textile unit, is permitted in urban areas, excluding Chennai City Police Commissionerate jurisdiction with 50% workers in shift by duly observing standard operating procedure. This has been issued. Then second relaxation is export-oriented units. Yeah, all industrial activities shall be allowed in village and town panchayat is already allowed. Earlier, there was some restriction on the textiles that now that is also cleared. The export-oriented units with 50% strength in all areas across the state, excluding Chennai City Police Commissionerate jurisdiction. Because this is what they have been asking, particularly the leather exports and textile exports. Last time we permitted the sample making. This time manufacturing is also permitted with the 50% staff. So these two relaxation has been just GO is issued. It will be, coming in the TV. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I now request Mr. Gururaj? We are running out of time. Mr. Gururaj set up the Flextronics facility in Sriperumbudur some years ago. Can I request you to crisply state your point of view, please? Thank you, sir.
Yes. So thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of such eminent people. I come from a slightly different perspective to all the other points that were made so far. And I look back, I was very closely involved in the Flextronics investment in Sriperumbudur. And why did it happen? And I'll just quickly run through in a couple of minutes why it happened. And I believe many of these are still true today, and that's why investments are very likely to happen, continue to happen in Tamil Nadu. Sir, one point I want to make, we talked about Chennai is not cool, doesn't have the food hep culture and pubs and all that stuff. But if I may submit that in spite of all that, many of the big names in manufacturing and otherwise have invested in Chennai and in Tamil Nadu. So I believe that that's a secondary factor. And I just run through, because I was closely involved, what made Flextronics invest in Sriperumbudur, because I was involved in the decision making. One, the passion and support of the government. The passion that we saw in the government to support investors was so strong compared to the other states that it was a big plus point in favor of Tamil Nadu. Second, the speed at which the government moved at that time. And I know that when we inaugurated the Flextronics factory, which was done by the then Honorable Prime Minister of India, the SEZ in Sriperumbudur of Flextronics was seen as one of the quickest SEZ ever set up in the country. Number three, quality of manpower. I have run factories elsewhere, and not that I mean to disrespect any other state or any other so on, but the quality of manpower in Tamil Nadu stands out. To me, having run the Flextronics factory for some time in Sriperumbudur, it stands out. There is no question about it. Both white and blue collar. The next point is, why Flextronics invested in Sriperumbudur? Safety. And safety in Chennai compared to, say, other locations was a very big factor which was taken into account to make the decision. Next point, at that point, we had something called the Chennai versus China. Guidance Bureau had a very nice presentation called Chennai versus China cost competitiveness. So I believe that if the cost competitiveness factor, if we can keep even now, and we can convince investors to that Chennai and Tamil Nadu continue to be cost competitive vis-a-vis other parts of the world and probably other parts of the country, I do believe that Tamil Nadu and Chennai and Tamil Nadu can be a winner. One important thing, my humble opinion, sir, is the manufacturing culture of Tamil Nadu. Thanks to TVS Group and many of those who over the last 80 or 100 years have set up that manufacturing culture. And when you run factories outside of Chennai, you realize how different the difference in the culture, people who come, and definitely manufacturing culture of Tamil Nadu and Chennai stand out. Um the uh, and when I talk about the culture, one, the ability, manufacturing is a tough game. You have to, it's 8 hours a day, day after day after day after day. And we've seen that in Sri Perumbudur at that time, it's proud of the ability of the people to work hard, day in and day out. And the last point, I believe, because I've been involved not only in Testronics, but decisions of other multinationals in India who have made investment decisions in India. And everyone looks at what the history of that location is. And Chennai and Tamil Nadu have a very strong history of having attracted global companies into the state and into the city. So if these points, I believe a lot of these points are relevant today, and if they stand replicated, I believe that Chennai and Tamil Nadu continue to be a very strong, can make a very strong case for investments from global companies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gururaj. I think we should move on to the audience question, Shankar. Quick time check. Sorry.
The first question I have for Mr. Venu Srinivasan.
I think, can I make a point here?
Yes, sir. Please respond.
I think just to respond to the points raised by Kodisia, Mr. Ramamurthy, I think there were two main points he raised. One was with regard to the interest subvention. So I would like to inform that already the state government has allowed the interest subvention of 5% in the budget announcement that was made this year for the scheme that we have for the MSME units in the state. Also, with regard to the funding that has been now announced by Government of India for the MSME sector, the latest round of relief measures announced, that has a provision for funding at concessional rate, and the package is for 3 lakh crore without collateral for the MSME units, out of which we expect that about 12 to 15% should come to Tamil Nadu based on the number of units here. We had a meeting with the RBI yesterday and all the bankers, and in that what we have insisted upon is that we will have a monitoring mechanism to ensure that the funding that is now allowed through the banking channels should actually reach the MSME units in Tamil Nadu. So we have a mechanism now in place whereby on a regular basis we will monitor the funding being given to the MSME units in Tamil Nadu based on the package announced by RBI. Also, there is a new package announced by new funding source announced by the Government of India. That is a fund of funds for the MSME units. That also we think a good part of that should come to Tamil Nadu. And there is also a mechanism for the stressed MSME units, for which there is a subordinate debt announced for 20,000 crores, out of which again a good portion should come to the Tamil Nadu. So for all these funding sources, we now have a mechanism in place to ensure that the funding actually is rolled out on the ground to the MSME units in Tamil Nadu. Other points regarding labor laws, we are aware of the requests, and those are under discussion here. So we hope that we would be able to have some concessions on some of the points that are of concern to the industry. So we are aware of the concerns of the MSME sector in Tamil Nadu, and we are actively working with all the industry stakeholders through discussions, through consultations, to ensure that all the legitimate concerns are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So there is an audience question for Mr. Venu Srinivasan, which is that we have Mahindra World City in Chennai. It's been there for a while, and now there is a second one coming up in Puneri. Do you see these as templates for more such industrial parks in other parts of Tamil Nadu?
Definitely. I think what we need either is complete private sector, or even some of the current ones like Maraimala Nagar being put into a joint sector and improve the infrastructure adequately to make current customers happy. So, my friend Santanam said, first keep current customers before you go out and acquire new customers. So we need to make the current major ones which are having poor infrastructure or complaints from industries there. We've got to bring that up also. So one could look at taking those and converting them into PPP. If you look at Cochin Airport and joint sector, it performs much better than many other airports in the country.
Thank you, sir. I think that answered his question. The next question, I guess it is to the government representatives, is what is the government action plan to attract fresh investment from companies that exit China? This has come from Shoya Chir Rajashekar, President, Tamil Chamber of Commerce. This is addressed to the government panel.
Actually, even before this COVID pandemic, from Industries Department and through our Investment Promotion Agency guidance, we have been working on some focus countries, including China, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan, because already there was some lot of interest from investors moving out from there. Now, after COVID, now government has constituted actually a high-powered committee under Chief Secretary with representatives from all these countries and their business associations. And we are having the task force meeting, the first task force meeting tomorrow. We have also engaged PwC to help us in the whole process. So we are very closely working now with around 300 to 400 leads, and we are very we are pursuing these leads, and we are very confident that we should be able to actually. This committee also has been given a 2 months time. 1 month they'll be submitting an interim report, and in 2 months they'll be giving the final report, based on which we'll come out with a very strong package to attract this industry. And we have been at it for last 6 months, and now we'll do it with renewed vigor.
Thank you, sir. Little louder, please. We can't hear you. You're too far away.
Sorry, who's speaking?
Yes. I am
Rajendra Kumar.
I am Rajendra Kumar, MSME Secretary in State Government. Yeah, for the MSME sector, I think many of you may be aware, we have announced that in the budget, in the policy announcement this year, that for the MSME sector, all the approvals required to establish a unit, we will allow the units to have a 3-year exemption period, during which they can self-certify the various approvals that are required for them to start. And for 3 years, there will be no need for any prior approval. So this announcement has been made by the government, and after 3 years, they need to get approval within the period of 1 year after that. So this is a major announcement that we have made, and we hope that we can issue the detailed guidelines and the government order soon. So that is a big relief to all the MSME units. And we think that this is going to attract a lot of investment to the state, because the need for approvals has been done away with, and the units can be established quickly, and they can go on a steam very fast compared to what other states they would be offering them. So that should be a major attraction for the investments to flow in our state in the time to come.
Thank you, sir. A question from Mr. G. Prabhu. Maybe Jayam, you can take that. What are the safety measures being taken when opening factories that have been shuttered for over 50 days?
I think there are comprehensive guidelines that have been given by the government. That's a very rich source of information and process. In addition, I think internally in your own factory, there are things that you need to do which are very specific for each industry, depending on what kind of machinery, what are the vulnerabilities of the machinery, what's the environment, temperature, humidity, all that you need to look into. So there's a wealth of information. I don't think there is one specific kind of a thing. There are specific guidelines or general guidelines from the government, and you need to have specific stuff that is relevant for your own business and factory.
So in summary, all due precautions are being taken when restarting a company, a factory that has been closed for a long time.
Absolutely. We did a trial run for about 2-3 days without production, and then only we ramped it up.
Thank you. I will make this my last question. There's a whole lot of questions, but I'll make this my last question. This is from a trustee of CIC. In Tamil Nadu, and this is for the government panel, in Tamil Nadu, conversion of agricultural land to non-agricultural use takes about 2 years, going through 12 departments. All because in December 2010, a rule was brought in which has become an impediment, needs to be relooked. Introduce a T-pass like in Telangana.
The land conversion rule was brought in because of something that the High Court required us to do. That you see, Tamil Nadu did not have, traditionally did not have this requirement of converting agricultural land to non-agricultural land. It's much more a practice in the North Indian states, and I think as a result of experience there, they said, oh, how come you don't have this rule? So as part of this entire regularization of unapproved layouts and so on, at that stage, based on instructions from High Court, a specific provision was brought in to facilitate the conversion of land. I do understand that there have been delays, but I think we have now streamlined the process, and it has also been brought in as one of the items in the single window process where, in case, I mean, the time prescribed under the rules is a maximum of 2 months. And if for any reason the permission is not accorded within that period and it's part of an application in a single window, then there is a provision for deemed approval. And if there are reasons why it has not been done as a result, it can always be looked at and resolved by the grievance committee. I do understand that if it went on a routine basis, it may take the length of time that your trustee has pointed out. But in events where it has gone through the single window process, it should be possible now to get it done within the 2-month period without any difficulty. And if for some reason the land conversion is not granted within that 2 months, it will amount to a deemed approval.
Thank you. This was going to be my last question, but there's an interesting one which I thought I will ask Mr. Santanam. There has been much talk about relaxation of various labor regulations. In fact, many states have gone ahead and done deep changes. The question is, should you wait for the 4 new central labor codes that are before Parliament, or should we do something more immediately?
Hey, I'm not an expert, but I think Tamil Nadu can go ahead and do something ahead of the labor code because Tamil Nadu has always been progressive on that. So this is something which I think experts can come up with what can come ahead, but clearly Tamil Nadu can be ahead of the curve right now. Today, there are some states like Gujarat and Rajasthan are slightly ahead of the curve. Tamil Nadu can do that now.
As I said, there are a whole lot of more questions, but we will, I think, make this our last question. And I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank the representatives of the Tamil Nadu government. Thank you. Your participation has actually made our day for us. And you know, it's a bad thing to say, but this COVID has had a silver lining around it, which is that we actually get to meet in this manner and resolve issues across the wire, which I don't know if it would have been possible otherwise. So with this, I hand over back to Vanitha. Vanitha, please take it forward.
And on behalf of CIC, I would like to really thank the Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary, the additional Chief Secretaries and Secretaries for their most open and decisive discussion, the wonderful panelists who have really contributed, and Shankar for his absolutely superb moderation of this discussion. To truly, if anybody had even a slightest iota of doubt about the quality of this government in Tamil Nadu, this particular panel discussion of respectful, reasoned dialogue brings a collective power and capacity of entire society for the progress of the state together. So this will clear any possible doubt. So thank you so much to each and every one of you, and may Tamil Nadu continue its journey to progress and triumph over COVID. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.